I don't know what is real.
And I think a lot of people have that same challenge, bro. I think there's a lot of people who are not trusting of clergy anymore, right? So, like, for example, a lot of people in the church world, they blame the devil for everything happening in the church. I don't do that, right? Jesus said something very powerful when he's alive. He said, on this rock, he was talking about the revelation of who he is. He said this to a follower named Peter: I'm going to build my church, and the gates of hell is never going to prevail. So I understand that darkness will never overcome the church. But every time I say this, people send me DMs and they get mad and all this stuff, and I don't really care, bro. I think the greatest threat to the American church is the American pulpit. I feel like we, the pastors, myself and the pastors, we are the one that is doing the most damage to the American church. It is the foolishness that we preach. It is the antics that we do. It is the corruption that we invite. And it's all of the shenanigans we do in church. So it's kind of like you see stuff like, you know what I'm saying? Oh, the Spirit of God is saying to me, there's 25 people in this room right now who need to bring me $10,000, right?
That's not real, right?
Nah, bro. I don't believe any of that. I think a lot of that is fleecing God's people, bro. It is fleecing God's people. It is fleecing God's sheep. The scripture says that for those of us who are going to give, we should do that cheerfully out of our hearts. So, like, I don't believe in any of that stuff. I think that there is a lot of things that we attach God's name to that he is not attached to. And because the word pastor has so much weight with it, we see people doing this stuff and we just go down the path like, yo, peep this, bro, right? I believe the more truth you know, the easier it is to discern a lie. And I think because people don't know truth, they don't know that they're listening to lies. You know what I'm saying? This, like, for example, with my congregation, I encourage them, don't believe everything I say. Go home and check behind me. I encourage them to read the scriptures for themselves, bro. Go home and educate yourself in the word, because you know what happens when you're filled with truth? Let me tell you what happens when you're filled with truth. When you are filled up with truth, you will hear lies, whether on a podcast, on an audio book, on a Sunday morning, and it'll feel like static in your soul. And the more truth you know, the easier it is to discern a lie. And so, but if you're void of truth, you don't know what God has said, then you can sit under a preacher, a leader, and be fed a placebo, be fed a lie, things that are not categorically true. And then what happens is we create in people's minds a Jesus that does not exist, a God that does not exist, a Christianity that does not exist. And then people go out there and they be mad at God because he did not come through. They be mad at the Lord because he did not come through. But you was believing in something that was not true to begin with.